Welcome to the Clonestar Podcast and our special series, The Women of Strange New Worlds. I'm your host, Jodi Pickens, and in each episode, we're exploring the women who define the Enterprise's missions and embody the heart of Starfleet. Today, we're spotlighting Khan Noonien Singh, the Enterprise's Chief of Security, a survivor of unthinkable trauma, and a woman carrying the heavy legacy of one of Starfleet's most infamous names. From her harrowing encounters with the Gorn, to her struggles with identity and belonging, to unexpected moments of connection and vulnerability, Khan is one of Strange New Worlds' most layered and fascinating characters. We'll dive into her defining episodes, explore the themes of legacy, trauma, and resilience that shape her arc, and discuss why her story resonates so strongly with Trek fans today. Joining me today are two voices you may already know from the Trek podcasting universe. Rhianna and Ashlyn, the dynamic duo behind the Duras Sisters Podcast. Week after week, these sisters boldly go into every corner of Star Trek with humor, heart, and a deep love for the franchise. From character deep dives to episode rewatches, from Romulans to caves, Rhianna and Ashlyn bring both fun and thoughtful analysis to their conversations. Together, they've built a community of listeners who celebrate Star Trek not just as a series of shows, but as a universe that continues to inspire connection, curiosity, and courage. I'm so excited to have them here today to share their Trek insights, laughs, and perspective with us. Thank you both for being here.
Oh, thank you.
What an intro.
Thank you. That's better than the intro we wrote for ourselves.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's all true from my perspective, so we'll go with it. But thrilled to have you here today. And I, of course, had to work in some Romulans and caves in that because
yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just the Cave series, epic stuff.
Still recovering. I see caves everywhere in my life. Still,
exactly.
I don't think of caves without thinking of your podcast. So
thank you.
Whenever you're trapped in a cave, think of us. Yeah,
I will. I know who to call. You guys know how to get in and out, so that'll be good. Well, talking about Khan today, I wanted to just jump in with kind of a fun little thing to get us going. But if there were a hologram program that Khan would secretly enjoy, which would it be? And then which one would she just walk out of immediately? I mean, there's been a lot of holodeck programs out there in Star Trek world.
I mean, I think the obvious answer for what she would enjoy is a Dixon Hill collab with Jean-Luc Picard. I think that they would have a great time solving some mysteries together. She's already proven that she loves a good mystery story. But she would immediately walk out of Flaughter. Even if she were a kid, she'd be like, we're done. I am not going to save this forest. I'm not talking to a tree.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Flaughter. Yeah, that's
Flaughter. It's so true, though.
I agree with
would
you.
Not approve. Yeah,
I agree with you about Dixon Hill. I think any sort of and I could just go with maybe Data and Geordi have a actual Sherlock Holmes adventure. I think she would also enjoy that too. I'm trying to think. Maybe Spock would be her Watson. That's kind of the obvious answer. But I think she would not like Sandrine's from Voyager. I think she would like Fairhaven, weirdly.
Wait, defend your answer. I want to know why you think this.
Okay, because, Sandrine's, it's just it's boring. She doesn't I don't think she likes playing pool. It's not developed enough. I think Fairhaven would have just enough intrigue and there's gossip around that it would take her off of the duties of the ship long enough to be I saw Harry Kim kissing a cow last night, I don't know. I think she'd be in on the drama of Fairhaven. So, but not. She's not into boring stuff. So I'm thinking Sandrine's nah.
Sandrine's is very casual, typical interaction that you would have on the ship, anyways, with the crew. So I can see her being I do enough of this, right? Especially early on, when we meet her in the first, maybe even halfway through the second season, she's I'm not about this, people.
Yeah.
But I do think Fairhaven, that's a fun one. Boy, could you imagine her in Fairhaven?
In her little outfit,
it's there's 7 throwing the rings, right? In the bar with them. But then I think Khan would be right under that level of just I'm going to participate, but that's where it's going to end. I'm just
Yeah.
here to get through what you need me to do, maybe. And
I think Michael Sullivan might flirt with her, though.
oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
Be careful.
sure.
Yeah.
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 I mean, unless Janeway reprograms him, of
Right.
course,
To be,
right?
to be locked in on only Janeway. Yeah.
Like, not only delete the wife, delete all other.
Yes.
All other interests. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That could be a whole story right there of Janeway just
Truly.
Amazing crossover. Yeah.
We're gonna have to write. We're gonna send that in to the writers.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Just, hey, we're gonna let the Fairhaven legacy live on and on. Well, that's good. I like that. That says a lot about her as a character too. Those choices. So I appreciate that. Let's talk a bit about who she is, because I think it does take us a minute to get to know her when this series kicks off. We talk about she's got a pretty strong family legacy. I mean, that descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. There's a burden attached to that name, and I don't know that we've ever spent a lot of time thinking about the descendants of him as he's a villain, obviously, in our Trek world, but I think a lot of folks also sympathize with him a bit because he was kind of a victim of circumstance too. But I'm curious what you think about how her heritage maybe affects her and how she's viewed.
I think we see it so much in Tomorrow in season 2, because when she finally meets someone who doesn't recognize her name, she feels so free, because I mean, anyone who has a famous name like that, or or are related to somebody famous, you have to just know that they're going to judge you based off of that connection before they get to know you. And so that's just, I mean, her Gorn stuff aside, it's like she has all this trauma growing up, and then when she enters society, everybody's like, Khan Noonien Singh, freaking out about that. I can't imagine the type of wall, and you'd have to put up a wall, I would think, but maybe between yourself and also just you can't let anything touch you. You have to just be able to take whatever people throw at you. It would be tough. It would be a real burden. And people might even get in arguments with you about, things that are not even in your control, about genetics and on and everything. I can see a lot of uninvited discussions being have towards her just because she's in the vicinity. It would be a real burden. You're right about that, Jodi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's something interesting about the fact that she doesn't ever change her last name, or she didn't choose to. Of course, I think maybe if she hadn't been kidnapped to this Gorn nursery and had to deal with all that, maybe she would have thought more about oh, if I get into Starfleet, I could change my name. I can, kind of erase that history of myself. But it says a lot about her character that she didn't do that, because she is, even though she's frustrated with people treating her this way, she's very confident about who she is, and she kind of does give this attitude of yeah, what of it, come at me a little bit, and I think that is one way to protect herself, we were talking about, but also another way for her to just be who she needs to be. But I have thought about that, because it's fairly easy to change your last name, even if you don't get married. You can still do that even now in today's society. So I'm sure it's even easier now. Maybe there's less red tape, less money you have to pay, obviously, because there's no money. So you could just change your last name if you need to. But it makes me think a lot about how stigma is really carried with you, and whether you have a certain last name, or you're a certain race or gender or things like that. I think that there's a lot that you carry with both internally and externally, and I mean, if we think about it, even from a generational trauma perspective, that's got to be really interesting to sort of explore as the writers. They did this a lot more in seasons 1 and 2. They haven't really touched much on it in this season, but I do think that there's why she's such a troubled character, even beyond her Gorn stuff, is probably a lot in part to this generational trauma, to having to always fight back against your DNA, quote unquote. And of course, DNA doesn't define you. She's not going to become this raving murderer just because she was Khan's ancestor, or she's Khan's ancestor. But I do think that it does speak to the how she has to be stronger, how she feels she can't connect with people, that's something that she like literally just grew up kind of knowing. And it does make me think a little bit about Julian Bashir and DS9. You know, I mean, it's different because he's not carrying a name, but he's carrying the secret around that he's genetically enhanced, which is also completely directly related to Khan. And a lot of people will take that once they find out as like, oh, well, you could go crazy any minute and murder us, or like, oh, you think you're better than us, or just all of these things. And we don't see that much on DS9, but we see it in Starfleet. He's pretty much preparing for himself to be kicked out. He's prepared to become a pariah. And so he also had built up these walls his whole life. And he does it through like humor and whimsy. You know, he's like, I'm just going to be like a cute little guy and like pretend that none of this is affecting me deeply internally. While La'an goes the other direction and is like, I'm going to be very serious. I'm going to not let anyone in, and just like keep to herself. You know, I mean, her song, how would that feel in the musical, truly does sort of lay out how she grew up and how she's continuously kept herself hidden from the world in order to protect herself. So it's kind of interesting because I think if she'd only had one trauma, maybe it would have been different, but it is this layered thing, you know?
It really is for her. And I think, like you both said, like she does put up a wall, but it's one that she kind of puts up and down a little bit because she does have confidence. She leads with that kind of confidence and bravado, you know, just to establish boundaries, I think, with people. And but she, like you said, she does embrace the name and the heritage, that surprisingly so. And I think that's what, you know, kind of does set her a little bit apart from other folks too. So yeah, she's complicated, you know, like, and I think she continues to rise to that complicated kind of identity as the series has progressed. So go ahead, please.
Just one last thing I was going to say. I was thinking that if I try to put myself in her shoes, it's like, yes, you have this horrible thing in your past, horrible, like infamous person, but also like you're really strong, like physically strong, like mentally strong, like you might as well use the genetics you've been given. And so like she's then, you know, the security officer on the flagship of the Federation.
Right.
You know,
which is not anything to like, you know, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Especially in Starfleet. Yeah. So I think it does say a lot about her character and her abilities. And I mean, she's in good company with the list of security officers across the fleet or across Trek that we have seen. So I think that's...
And one of our only female identifying security officers as well, which is very cool too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we had Tasha Yar, right, for a hot second, right?
For a hot second. and Murph with no gender.
Right. Murph.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Murph. Yeah. I need a Murph t-shirt because I love Murph. Oh, he's just such a great little worm. I love him.
Literally. An incredible worm. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, she's in good company and unique. And we love those identities of our characteristics of one of our Trek characters anyway. So yeah, I think that sets her apart. Well, you both touched on this a little bit, but like she is also shaped by her early life of a survivor of the Gorn and the traumas associated with that, which of course they would. I mean, the Gorn are completely different than what we've seen in the original series. I mean, we love a good Gorn from TOS, but these, right. But these Gorn are different, and we understand a little bit of where La'an has come from. But how do you feel like that Gorn experience and trauma has really, you know, kind of defined her outlook on life and duty? You talked a little bit about that with her Khan identity, you know, heritage, but this is also maybe almost equal part of who she is.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Strange New Worlds, you know, despite being an episodic show, they do a great job of having like long-term character arcs throughout seasons, and I think La'an is one of the best characters that they've like slowly adapted throughout the show. And it's amazing to rewatch season 1 and you see just how traumatized she still is from being captured by the Gorn. Especially when you're watching season 3, she's thriving in season 3. She's really embraced this idea of you have to not just survive, you have to thrive, you have to live, and there's whatever Pike says to her, there's surviving and there's living, something like that. Like we see her eventually, and there's still tough days, but she eventually gets there. So it's I just can't imagine what she went through, because if she's still like fighting through all of these traumas in season 1 and throughout the show, they're still dealing with the Gorn a lot. This is not something that's going to go away. So I don't know how she did it. Like I know Una like was on the team that rescued her, and so I think that strong connection of friendship throughout the years, a reason for her to join Starfleet. So many characters join Starfleet to find truth and calm and a sense of purpose, and I think that it's remarkable and makes sense that La'an would thrive in something like Starfleet, and maybe that helped her to put the trauma away for a little bit and just like build her skills. And sometimes you can, by focusing on one thing, you can kind of avoid facing your past. So I don't know, like I just have so much respect for La'an, because despite what she's been through, in spite of what she's been through, she's still this like badass, incredible character.
Yes, I love that. And I think to add on, I think there's this interesting, like you said, character arc where she does start the series just being hypervigilant, and I think that makes her a very, very good security officer, and that her like trauma informed hypervigilance has been able to contribute to making sure that the Enterprise is safe, making sure that people are safe, and that is of course extremely helpful for the job. But there are so many characters in Starfleet just on this ship alone who have run away from their previous trauma to Starfleet. Uhura has a whole episode about that, and Spock, of course, like Una, like half our characters or more could speak to that. And I think that it's really important that she grows beyond using her survival skills in her job, and I think that it's important that, like you said, Ashlyn, in season 3, that she's able to begin to live beyond the parameters of like, I just have to fight for every day and I have to constantly be on alert. And she's, starting to dance to like express her trauma. And I really like this because I've read this amazing book called My Grandmother's Hands by this author named Resma. And he talks a lot about how getting trauma out of the body is a lot of like movement, like physical movement. And it's a lot about like settling your own body when it comes to like through dance, through song, through like harmonizing with other bodies, both like musically, but also just like being together with other settled bodies. And so it's really cool to see that she's sort of utilizing dance as like a way to both thrive outside of an environment that isn't just like, I'm learning it for work, it's not like Data where he like has to learn it for the wedding. Like she's just learning it because she wants to and because it brings her joy outside of work. And I think that utilizing your skills of like through without it just being this hypervigilance is really cool to see her grow into. And I think this is in part because of the people she has around her. We have this wonderful episode where I think it's Memento Mori, where Spock and her mind meld, and they kind of work through their sibling trauma together. And it's really important to share that bond because Spock has not been able to talk about Michael like at all, besides maybe
classified.
to Pike.
Yeah,
literally classified. Like
Classified.
he literally can't speak about it. But in this safe space of a meld where like La'an's not going to tell anyone, and Spock's not going to tell anyone about La'an's brother, like unless she wants him to, then it becomes this safety where like they can both explore their trauma in like this really safe environment. So it's really cool to see her grow through that. And I don't know though. I mean, I just can't imagine. Like, I think that it makes sense that she chose the trajectory of Starfleet, being inspired by Una, but also like just trying to like, well, I have all these survival skills, I better use them, and
Right.
It's good to see that she starts to grow without that as well. And she's also really good at during a Gorn attack. Unfortunately, she has to deal with that at the end of season 1. And season 2, like there's so many Gorn times where she just has to like lock in, get a little bit re-traumatized, but she has her crew behind her to help her work through it after. So it's nice to see her growth. Yeah.
It is. And I think it's interesting to, as much as Strange New Worlds deals with the Gorn, it's very, to me, similar to the way Voyager dealt with the Borg. You had Seven and Janeway, who were like constantly having to face their traumas and experiences with the Borg. This is no different. Like, La'an is their Gorn expert. She's the one who knows and has the most experience. And I think I like that kind of strength and resilience we get from her, much like we did out of Janeway and Seven and Voyager. But I do think leads us into their core traits of who she is, right? Like, she's disciplined. She can be stoic. She could be skeptical, but I think for me, at least, it's her deep loyalty. Like, you spoke to it about, like, she mind melded with Spock and they shared some serious details of their lives, and yet implicit trust that it was staying there. But I'm wondering, do her characteristics skew more towards being kind of that soldier and deep down that military side of her that is the chief security officer? She's a survivor, which of the trauma of the Gorn and living that side of her life, or is she becoming more of a balance of both?
I think probably a balance. I feel like more so, like, if she has to flip on autopilot, she's going to be that soldier type person. And I think that's because it's the person, obviously in Starfleet, that's who's going to serve her the most, is this person who's like, and even from the most recent episode, I can't remember what it was called, but the documentary episode of Strange New Worlds, she even talks about how she has to just like jump into action. You have to be like absolutely ready for anything that's going to happen on this ship. And she has to make quick and logical decisions when there's no time to think quickly and logically in like really dangerous situations. And so I think that person, for who she is right now, is really serving her. I think, yes, I think she is getting more and more balanced, but I think that's maybe more of her default. But yeah, I don't know. I think she's on her way. And not that it's bad. It's not bad to have to be like the soldier mentality at all, because she's amazing. So
right.
yeah,
and it's true. Necessary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they need it. They need that person on the bridge of that ship.
That's a part of her job. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a core of her job. And I feel like it is interesting to look at someone like La'an compared to someone like Ortegas, who have both kind of been in war situations. Ortegas was in the Klingon War. Also, M'Benga and Chapel were on the front lines, the medical front lines of the war.
This crew has been through so much.
I mean, they've got
Star Trek is
just tick off all the trauma that they each have experienced. It's intense.
They've all really had harder lives than all of us.
Yeah.
Maybe like, is the future that much better? Yeah. All of their families are dead. It's really rough.
It's truly intense.
It is.
I think it is interesting to see. I'm not trying to compare these characters, like say that one's better than the other or one's handling it better than the other, but it is interesting to see how La'an, I think, does a little bit more compartmentalizing of things that she experiences and not trying to relate it as heavily to a current situation. Like, I noticed that she's not super triggered by Captain Batel being like low-key a Gorn, and I thought that maybe that would be something that would be like very, like, she couldn't be around her. Not that we see them interact much this season, but I thought that would be maybe more of a like crisis point for her. And it just hasn't been. And I think that is because of La'an's compartmentalization and her ability to like see situations through each context that they're in, that maybe Ortegas lacks from just like being triggered automatically by like, I mean, if you're seeing the Butcher of Jagal, you're going to be triggered. I get that, like, of course, M'Benga and Chapel have a really hard time with that as well. And it just makes me think how some people, after being kind of on the front lines of a war or dealing with something very intense and traumatic, and you have to be this warrior, some people can't walk away from it as easily. And I think that La'an, unfortunately and fortunately, has learned to from a young age, and she's learned to be able to kind of pack stuff away. And, obviously this girl needs therapy. They all need therapy. I would love to actually have a Deanna Troi on like all
right. I just they need a ship's counselor pretty desperately.
Yeah,
actually,
like every single ship needs at least one counselor. Probably more than one, because we know that Troy was drowning, like trying to take care of like all of these crew members during a peaceful time, basically. Right. But this is right on the heels of the Klingon War. Everyone needs a therapist, and I think that La'an's way of dealing with stuff, though, is definitely like push it down and wait for it to be relevant later, which is not very healthy. But
I think she's better now than she used to be.
Exactly.
Though. I think she's much better than she used to be.
But because now she's using these outlets, like she's starting to dance. She's starting to like connect with her crew more. She's actually starting to like, go out to drinks with Ahura and stuff, like just cute things like that allows herself to just be like a human, and not this soldier. So I'd love to see her growing and smiling more, just like being able to emote more freely without fear of like people judging her or her judging herself even. Because I think part of her stoicism came from the fact that like, if I let my guard down, then everyone's dead. Like that's kind of how she thinks in the beginning of the series. And now she's like, these people got my back. Like I can go have a drink and the ship's not going to fall apart, So that's kind of really been interesting to watch, especially
it has been
with the other characters who are also dealing with similar, like being sort of like combat soldiers kind of vibe.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely have that. I think one of my favorite moments for her is in the first season, and I can't remember the episode name. You might remember, but it's when she and Una play Enterprise Bingo.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes.
That was such a turning point for her, where she was like, "Oh, are we going to do this? We're going to have fun. We're going to," and Una's like, "Yes."
She had to be good cop too.
Yes.
At one point, which was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, we're going to see some of this maybe get knocked down a little bit of where she's kept herself so guarded. And that was just a fun episode. It was fun for both of those characters, but I think for her, they needed it, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about like having like a shore leave or whatever they were all on, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to take care of the ship," but are we?
I think it was Spock and Musk, because I think.
It might be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Spock and. T'Pring and switch bodies or something.
Something was happening.
It's always Spock, isn't it? I mean, let's be real.
Let's be real.
It's always in the middle of something. Yeah.
Always.
Or someone.
They're playing Enterprise Bingo. He's in his fiance's body.
Normal stuff. Yeah.
Another normal day on the Enterprise. Oh, it's literally. So true. It's so true.
Literally, yeah.
So let's, just for fun, what do you think her most metal moment so far in Strange New Worlds has been?
There's so many moments.
I think
my gut reaction is in, I want to say it's episode 9 of the first season, where we lose Hemmer.
Right.
Is it in the night? Yeah, because that's when they're stranded on the ice planet, and the Gorn are there. And what's insane is, like, despite everything she's been through, La'an, and there's that little girl there too.
Yes,
La'an,
that's right.
She's able to, because she I think her instinct is like, run, because I know exactly what's going on and we're all going to die. But instead, she's able to stay there, and she's able to give instructions to people on like what's the best way to survive. And Jodi, it was reminding me exactly what you said about Janeway and Seven. I really think about her and Janeway, like, especially like, think about Endgame Janeway, where she's like, I wrote the book on the Borg because I spent 24 years in the Delta Quadrant, like absolutely getting to know them and destroying them. How many Borg queens has she mowed down by then? I feel like La'an is on that journey of like, I'm going to use my terrible trauma and experience and make it a strength of mine, so I can help save my friends where nobody else knows this information, because nobody else has survived the Gorge. So for me, that was just like such an amazing moment that she was able to push through, save that little girl, mostly save the crew because of La'an. Like, there's a lot of big pieces in that episode, but without La'an, they'd be dead for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, ooh, that's a good one. I was thinking that one. I was also thinking about how badass she is in Season 2, Episode 1, and I'm so bad with Strange New Worlds titles, so I apologize.
Terrible.
I'm gonna learn them eventually.
Broken Circle.
Thank you.
Oh yes,
Broken
yes.
Circle. Where La'an is like making this deal with the Klingons, and she's like, "I have this device; it's gonna go off unless you listen to me." And then her is like, "Nice, like where'd you get that device?" And she's like, "I don't know what this is. Like, it's not gonna go off." Like she just and the Klingons actually compliment her. They're like, "You have the heart of a Klingon, you know, like you are." They're even like, "You're metal," you know. So I think that like game recognizing game in that moment was really cool because we've seen her go up against way scarier species than the Klingons, and so for her, she's like, "I can intimidate a Klingon, no big." Like,
right.
So that was really badass to see.
It is. I mean, she has those badass moments quite frequently.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, we are in this age of streaming where we have like, you know, 8-10 episodes in a season of some of our favorite shows, Trek being one of them. And I think it's so interesting how they develop characters, even if it's just in a few sentences in each episode, or a look or body language between characters. Like I'm finding that they use those to really move the individual character stories along. Whereas, you know, back in 90s Trek, where we'd have like 912 episodes a season, and you could get an entire episode or 2 or 3 focused on like a single character or two. And I think it's just right. Those were the days. I mean, I do look back on them fondly, but I'm also really appreciating the writing and acting that has to be achieved to really help move those stories along. And I think, well, La'an is proof of that. Like, I think they've written her well and not lean too heavily on either her military or militant ways or her trauma. They've found a nice balance of that, and she's definitely had a lot of metal moments in Strange New Worlds.
Even the first episode when she has to go down to the planet in disguise and Chapel's giving her the hypo. And she's like, "I don't want the pain inhibitor." And she's like, "Are you sure it's really gonna hurt?" And she's like, "No." And that's how we're introduced to La'an, is her like, "I don't want any of this," you know.
You're like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is this? And you're like, wow, that's intense. She's intense, and I'm okay with it.
Yes. Jodi, what you're saying about them packing so much character development into like a few seconds.
So true.
Ashlyn and I, whenever we do the pod, because we do it by series. So if we have like, when we were doing our engineering series and we were on to New Trek, it would be like that, where we literally say, okay, we're going to watch 30 seconds of this Discovery or Strange New World or like whatever episode, and then write frantically our notes. Like, because so much character development packed into that 1 minute. And then we're like, well, yeah, it's a part of our episode because
and then this will be addressed later.
We don't get a whole Pelia episode. We don't get a whole, we don't get that kind of stuff, but it's fine because we can just frantically write in our notes the like action-packed moment that they get, and it really contributes to the whole story. So it's a really great.
Oh, right. And I mean, with Pelia, we got that 30 seconds in her quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, I could write volumes just on that episode of Pelia. She's so amazing. And I mean, we talked about this on our podcast before too, but like, it's Carol Kane. So we have just a mass appreciation for her, but it's beyond that. Like, just, it's the art department, the way they're building these sets and these scenes for us. It's these actors, the writing, and you're right. Like, a few seconds of time in our 40 to 50 minute episodes. There's a lot to uncover in there. And I guess, that's why we keep watching.
Yeah, exactly right.
It really is. Well, you've mentioned a couple of La'an's, key episodes, and Memento Mori has come up. And I think, that season 1 episode is just really set her stage for her leadership during a Gorn crisis, and we get to know more about what she experienced as a child and dealing with the Gorn and the victimization of that and the trauma she carries with that. But you also mentioned Tomorrow is Tomorrow and all that, and that's from season 2 and that alternate timeline and the Kirk relationship. I mean, come on. There's a lot of emotion, right? Like the emotional growth, I think, and the personal development and connection she got. But those really kind of showcase the 2 characteristics we were just talking about. And I'm wondering, do you have any favorite moments or La'an comments from those 2? like all the things.
Tomorrow. The entire episode is my favorite Lawn moment. Like,
it's fun because we see her, like, we go into this and she's a stoic security guard. We've seen a little vulnerability from her, but oh my gosh, suddenly she's like thrown into this where she's facing her heritage, she's facing this attraction to Kirk, and they're in the timey-wimey situation. So
she honestly, she's kind of in City on the Edge of Forever. It's almost an Edith Keeler situation.
It like, really is.
You know?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great comparison.
Kirk the that
Romulan lady must die.
Yeah.
Khan Noonien Singh, you must leave a gun in his room. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I was like, you forgot something. Yeah. Tomorrow. I think it's definitely my favorite episode of Strange New Worlds. And I think the scene specifically, like you're talking about, Jodi, I'm a huge fan of the old 90s Trek episodes where you could have like long stories about the most random people, and you're like, wow, now I'm crying about this random person I've never thought about before. But I like when Kirk is playing chess and eating hot dogs with La'an and they're looking at the sunset, like just the times where they're just get to be together. We don't get too many, in my opinion, good romance stories out of Strange New Worlds or even Star Trek. I feel like Star Trek struggles to do romance so much.
Yes.
Like it's very hit or miss. And that was just like such a perfect episode. The chemistry is so good. And La'an is still, this was actually what I was thinking. It was maybe another one of her most metal moments too, because at the end, when Kirk gets shot, she's just had this whole like awakening with him and she feels so much for him. And yet she still has to go on and fight this Romulan, like go in and save Khan and all of this stuff. Like she doesn't let that stop her, and she still has to go back in time and save her ship and everything. So like, you know, the show must go on, but she pushed through, and I'm obsessed with tomorrow.
I love it.
Good show, or such a good episode. Yeah,
right.
Well, and to add to that, Ashlyn, also at the end when she's back, this is the first time that I like fell in love with La'an, because before I was like, she's cool. She's awesome. Like, way to go. She's badass. But I don't really get much from her emotionally. And I connect to characters which is funny because I love Spock and Data, but like they still show emotions in their own way.
They're emotional.
Like they are. Yeah. But La'an, I was like having a hard time reading. I was just like, I'm not quite sure like if I know you fully yet until that episode. And she's like clutching the watch and sobbing. I was like, I'm not a dry eye in the house, you know. And actually, my friend Hazel, she lives in the UK. She's like one of my like favorite people on Earth. I got her into Strange New Worlds because her friend Philippa got her into Discovery, and so we've been slowly working on her to get her to all of Trek.
Another convert. That's good.
Oh,
That's
exactly.
Good.
Yeah. And she like texted me after she finished Tomorrow, and she was like, I hate you. Like, you have ruined me. Like, I cannot. And she did not watch another episode for like a month because she was like stuck emotionally in that place with La'an. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, we're feeling it. And so I think for her to create such an emotional impact for all of us fans, you know, in that moment. I mean, Chrissy Chong in general is just a phenomenal actor. I think she did such a great job in that episode particularly. And also then it carrying on into the musical and how you get this lighthearted musical and in the middle you get this sad ass ballad from La'an basically saying like, how do I feel? How do I like start to emote to people? How do I start to become a person who can like both be like a kind of, you know, flirty in love woman and this badass security chief, you know, like it's this weird middle ground for her, that the crux of her character is so much of like, can she do both? Is she able to allow herself to be both? And I love that she's able to talk to Kirk in that episode, even if things don't go as she plans, you know, with Carol and all that drama. I still think it's fascinating watching that episode from her, just thinking about her, you know, and thinking about all she's been through emotionally in those episodes where she's like, oh my gosh, she's kind of nervous around him. She's like shy and flirty around Kirk the whole time they're working together. Jealous when he's singing with Una. She's like, damn it, I wanted a musical number with Kirk. Like, and confessing to him before she starts singing a sea shanty or whatever she says, you know. So I loved that because it shows how much she's grown. Because I think honestly, she's more afraid of saying how she feels to somebody than like facing the Gorn. You know, that's just how she is. And so it's really incredible to see her open up, and even though it still brought her heartbreak, better than like dealing with these feelings with Kirk just on like inside and not letting it out. So I love that those two episodes do kind of go hand in hand with her development.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. And let's be honest, I'm still waiting for Strange New Worlds, the musical, to hit Broadway because
yes,
I mean,
let's go. I have the record right here, so yes. I just stare at their beautiful faces all day.
And I mean, I've got a musician's background, and so like the hooks in that soundtrack they're just strong, and I think. And there's just some really good vocal performances that come out of these folks. I mean,
she's got like an actual album.
Yes.
Writing music all the time. And
then you got Celia Rose Gooding, who's just, I mean, my gosh.
Incredible
her
singer.
Voice, her voice just gets me.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. Like I said, like, I think a lot of La'an's relationships are, the way she's dealing with the relationships are so different than what we've seen in the past. I think of Janeway, who very much so kept so much of that romantic or connective piece of her at bay for so long during the show. And then, we got snippets of it, usually through the holodeck, right? I mean, so
Michael. Yep.
Right, Michael, and there was that weird Victorian thing she had going on there early on.
Governess thing.
The governess thing. Yeah.
That was, La'an would not like that either.
No,
that's true.
That's another
one.
She'd
these kids need to calm down. Like,
yeah. She would be delete the kids.
Go
I mean,
to
that
bed.
just
yeah. She'd be like, your mother's dead, get over it.
Yeah. Her matter of fact side would be like, we are not doing this. So it's just so different than the way that we deal, I think, with women in an authoritative role in Trek right now, and the way they balance their interpersonal relationships versus the way we saw Janeway, or I think of Kira from DS9. Like, it's an interesting balance there, but I'm liking where we're taking these, women and how they deal with power and relationships. And I think it's important. And like you said, Christina does just an amazing job in her portrayal of La'an and the way she communicates, all of these feelings. So
I was thinking about how, we talked about she's the only female identifying like security officer that we see in Trek. And I actually really love what they've been doing with her, just in terms of like masculinity and femininity, because she is this like really strong, powerful character, but she's not afraid to embrace her feminine side. And I think a lot of like older, men writing women on Star Trek, like to write a strong woman, you have to write them like a man. And I think La'an is actually, she's just written as a person. And so, like Rhianna said, she's dancing and like, that's seen as being a little more feminine, but she's not afraid to embrace that side of her, even though, and she's just like a model for me, honestly, too, because I think, I just really, I feel similarly to her. It's like, okay, like you want to, like, I feel like I, have a more like tendency like to lean towards masculine side, but it's like very fun also to like I'm a woman and like I can also embrace that too, And so like I love her as a model of that, and I think they're doing a great job because we've seen in the past like writers struggle to figure out like women in leading roles. They have trouble figuring out what to do with them, and I think with La'an there's like a beautiful balance of she's just La'an.
Didn't your husband, like the first couple episodes of Watching Strange New World, was like, "Wow, you're a lot like her."
Oh,
he
still says that.
Yeah, and you're like,
thank you.
I'm like, thank you. Oh, I'm like, La'an is like one of the coolest characters. I love her. So,
and you look like her too. Happy. So maybe it's time for a cosplay.
If I put my hair up, like
yes,
and if I had wore black leather, watch out.
Yeah, a red shirt, you're good to go.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Uh-huh.
I like what you're saying about that, because I do think that it happened in Discovery. I think it's happening in Strange New Worlds. It obviously happened in Lower Decks, but they really are challenging the typical stereotypes we see for our men, women, or people of whatever gender in general. They're really modernizing that, for lack of a better term, I think. And I know that there are a lot of us out there that wish they would push these things further, but the fact that they're edging toward that now, I'm fine. It's huge. It is huge. And I know that we need more of that. We need more of that now, especially in the world today, as things may be backtracking a little bit in that area. But I do love that there is still some of that scene in these newer shows, these newer episodes, and I'll take it. I'm going to take it. We'll take every little bit they give us.
Exactly. Seriously. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got to talk about the Gorn again. And we see it in the season 2 finale. We see in the season 1 premiere that her role in protecting the crew from the Gorn is paramount to who she is. And then there's that subtlety of her guarding herself that kind of like fades a little bit. Like she lets down her guard a little bit between the end of, in those 2 episodes. Now I know the situation, obviously, in the premiere episode of season 3 really showcased her trauma again, that's still there. It's still very forefront in who she is. But I do think that the Gorn stories they have the horror side to them, right? That's who these Gorn are in Strange New Worlds. They aren't the fun rubber-suited dude from TOS. I mean, but I do think in a way both those episodes are part of her healing journey.
Totally.
Yes. You agree with that?
Yes.
100%. And I feel like especially the season 3 premiere where she's having to also coach others through their Gorn trauma now, because we all got it now. They've been attacking the Enterprise enough, literally inside Batel as this is all happening,
as we speak.
Oh my God,
right now, right.
Yeah. So it's sort of this thing of like she's utilizing her past experiences, even if they're traumatic, to help others, to focus, to stay on track. I mean, Ortegas, really goes through the ringer in that episode. And we have, who else? Membenga, Sam, and La'an. And I think, like, especially Sam, who has a tendency to, like, completely freak out and lose his shit, like, every time something crazy happens. She really has to reel people back in and has to, but what I love to see too is that when she gets sidetracked or when she starts to dissociate a little, or as we see her kind of like getting lost in her thoughts, we have Mbenga right there being like, hey, stay with us. What do we do next? Like, let's just like look at this very clinically, and it is able to sort of like, okay, phew, she's like, you're right, we got this. So I love that too, because like we've talked about, Mbenga has a lot of different trauma, but adjacent, with like fighting in these battles. They're both warriors and they're both soldiers. And I think that they recognize that in each other really well in a way that like they're really able to help each other out. And so I think that
they spar all the time together too.
That's right.
I think that those are her therapy sessions, are the sparring with Mbenga, because he's like,
is kind of
like, you're punching really hard today. What's going on?
That's so true. And I think that La'an from season 1 would have had a harder time like letting people in enough to like help her deal with it. She's very much like lone wolf, like, I've got this, phasers out, everyone behind me. But this time she's like, okay, everyone is sort of flanking her. Everyone's beside her, both metaphorically and like, literally. So that is a cool adjustment to see with her, as like allowing people in enough to help her out as much as she helps them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I wish the one thing that they would have maybe covered, and maybe they still will, there's still time in season 3, but in that premiere episode of season 3, Ortegas really risked her life to save La'an. And we know that Ortegas is carrying the trauma of the Gorn experience and all of that with her. But I wish that there'd been some interaction between La'an and Ortegas post that event. I mean,
yes, agreed.
This is a theme across Trek. Like, anytime there's a traumatic experience, the episode's ends, and now we've moved on. Like, we don't go back and
Captain's Log supplemental. Everyone's fine.
We're off on a new mission. We're all good.
It may take them a few weeks, but they'll be good.
And they'll recover. Yeah.
And I'm fine with that on The Next Generation, because they have Deanna. She's busy, but she's there. Mm-hmm. Voyager had the Doctor. Mm-hmm. DS9 didn't have anybody until Esri Dax came on, and even then she was
way
like
too late,
too little, too late. Yeah,
and she was traumatizing everyone being a Dax in general.
Her trying to help Garrick is like, oh no,
this is
Her trying to help Worf. Woof.
Whoa,
yeah.
Worf has just got to find his own way. We've learned this about Worf,
yes.
so. But I do think I wish that could be explored, where like now that La'an has people on board the Enterprise who she, I do think, feels more comfortable with, find some, found family, that whole deal. But there's some shared trauma now across, her fellow crewmates there. And I don't know, I just wish they'd explore that more, because I think that's important to the idea of dealing with trauma individually, but also, kind of just helping people heal a bit. And I think, I don't know, shared experiences go far, don't they?
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think those are two characters, La'an and Ortegas, that have not interacted too much.
No.
And I wonder if maybe naturally they sort of repel against each other because they're so similar, kind of like, I don't know, maybe it might get too heated or something.
Yeah.
But
magnets,
I would love to see at some point a like stranded mission. They're trapped on a planet somewhere and they have to work together.
Maybe
they have to
Absolutely,
stuck in
obviously,
a shuttle and they have to drink in order, until somebody finds them. Like any of the tropes, I would love to see with La'an and Ortegas. I think they need to. There's something between them they need to like figure out. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree. What if La'an had faced the Borg instead of the Gorn? Would her approach differ from?
I think so.
More aggressive?
I think she'd have to be a little bit more like thoughtful, actually, because I feel like the Gorn are very like body horror. They're very much just like physical horror, and of course, body horror out the wazoo with the Borg. Sure. But they also take over your brain, and they take over your like basically your soul. Like you become in control. And yes, the Gorn can like shoot a baby out of you, which is terrifying in its own way. But I do think that you'd have to be a little bit more tactical about like if one of her crewmates gets assimilated, she can't just mow him down. Like she can't pull up a card and
I think she would.
First contact.
I think La'an would definitely mow down her.
She might, and I think she
completely
change her
would.
strategy and think more about how like intellectually how are the Borg gonna assimilate versus how the Gorn assimilate are so different, and it's a lot more of a mind game with the Borg. So I think she would struggle, honestly. I think that obviously because she doesn't have like experience with the Borg, but I think also she'd be inclined to just like shoot her way through, and that's not going to work when it's your friends. So
I totally disagree with you, Rhianna. I
tell us.
No, yeah. I think it's the same approach with the Gorn and the Borg, because if the Borg get attached to your crewmates, like they're pretty much gone. Like Locutus, Hugh, like there's some rare examples where our crewmates are assimilated and they're able to get them out, but that's only because they're the main characters, like
Janeway, Tuvok,
for the most part, they're not coming back alive. And so I think La'an, she would be great at dealing with the Borg. Because of the way that they adapt, she would pick that up really quickly. She'd be working with engineering, like trying to figure out, and she also like loves weapons too. So she's she's probably thinking really strategically.
A Reed level love. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's her. Yeah, exactly. It's her passion. So I think she would kick the Borg's ass, and it would be very similar approach to the Gorn. I think she'd be very brutal. I think not. It could be rough, but
it could be a bloodbath. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think like before Tomorrow and Tomorrow, there in that early on season 2 episode, I feel like she would like pair up nicely with Captain Picard in First Contact, where he's like,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Losing it a bit. And he's like, I can't let this happen again, to everybody. Like, so I think she would be like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's do this, But then I think after that episode, I think she is a little more even keeled. And I think, she may see the benefit of a Janeway approach to this. So that she is she's a bit of a wild card, I think, a little bit when it comes to that. But I do think as she's progressed as a character, she's she's gained some balance to her her approach a bit, and I'm here for it. I am absolutely here for it.
Great answer,
Jodi.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well, and it does make me think how wild it is that both the Gorn and the Borg, you start out thinking like once someone's assimilated or bitten or whatever, like they don't come back, and now we have examples from both. I know, but Batel's still a question mark. What's going on with her sleeper cell Gorn? But like,
sleeper cell Gorn. Oh, that better be a T-shirt somewhere, because
actually,
it really
needs a picture of Batel, like
like
a little phaser.
I'm here.
Jazz hands, I like that. The Garrick thing, like
yes.
Yeah, it does make me think about that. Of like, oh wow, we start to learn that like things are possible. You might be able to get your friends back, which complicates it a little more because you can't just be like, well, too far gone. Sorry, goodbye, pew pew. You know,
right.
It harder. Yeah.
It's interesting. So maybe that's a whole series for you, is exploring the Gorn Borg commonalities.
Comparisons.
We have to update our villain series, Ashlyn. It's been like 5 years basically since we've done villains. Yeah.
Well, we've added some serious villains in this new era of Trek, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, I think there is a lot of symbolism and themes that are explored through La'an as a character in this show, and obviously trauma and resilience being a big part of that, with her survivor identity really shaping her leadership style. In essence, I mean, we've talked about that today, about how that's evolved for her and continues to, but in a positive way. But do you think this is, there's also the burden of legacy, and I think that has kind of redefined in a way what it means for her to carry that heritage and that name of Noonien Singh. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think especially after tomorrow. Again, like clearly this episode was like a huge moment for her.
Yeah. Oh, it's defining for her as a character. It
deals with the core of her in so many ways, and especially when she literally sees Khan as a child.
Yeah.
And she realizes, like, it's that question of, if you saw baby Hitler, like, what would you do? And literally she's forced with that, but she has this connection that she's literally one of his ancestors, so she wouldn't exist. So it forces her to accept this part of her own past history. And so I think that it's definitely a way of like finding some affirmation in yourself. And I think it does change. Like maybe now when people come up to her and say Noonien Singh, she's able just to be like, yep, that's who I am. Hello, I'm Lana.
Right.
How can I help you? Tell me more. Yeah.
Yeah. Ashlyn, that's a really great point. I feel like there is something very powerful about kind of rising above what people expect of you just because of your name, and how you can kind of overcome that by like being better than people ever expect you to be. And I think that's sort of why we've talked about in the beginning, why she didn't change her name. I think that's one of the reasons, is because she's like, I'm going to do this despite everyone's like fears and questions. Yeah. And I think it is interesting because there's that one, in my opinion, too brushed over time where she finds out that Una is genetically enhanced, and there's this question of like, did she rat out Una, in the trial? There's that like moment of like, ooh, does she hate Una now because she's genetically enhanced and it reminds her of her own Khan trauma? But like, I think that being explored even a little bit was really important, because it's showing that she also, again, has the objectivity to be like, no, this is completely different. Illyrians are not Khan. I'm not Khan. And so therefore, why would I hate Una for that part of her? I'd have to hate myself for that part of me. Great so like, point. That's kind of a nice moment for her as well, to sort of grow beyond that and grow beyond what people think of her. Yeah.
Nice, Rhianna. True. Yeah. And that was early. Oh no, I guess that was season 2. But I'm thinking about the like Illyrian episode where Una's forced to reveal it.
The Ghost of Illyria,
yeah.
Ghost of Illyria. Like that's pretty early on, but I think that's an important step for La'an to have that too.
Yeah,
like
she's like augment, like
she's mad because she's mad at herself, not because she's mad at Una. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was another like self-acceptance moment, right? Essentially for her. Do you think, resilience is a big part of our characters across Trek. That's fundamentally where this all really stems from.
Yeah.
But we love, right? That's I think that's part of the human condition is resilience, no matter in what shape or form it comes in. I mean, La'an's is a bit extreme, and a lot of our Trek characters are a bit extreme with that, playing into their character. But what does her trauma arc say about resilience in Trek storytelling? Has it changed from what we've seen in the past?
I don't know. Maybe it's just gotten a little more like we've narrowed in on a character a little more than we have in the past. I think what I love about La'an, I've already kind of said, like, just how she is able to kind of wake up like out of this nightmare that she's been living in for so long and actually just start embracing life. And I feel like a lot of the time when you're trying to tell a story about someone recovering from trauma, like think about Nog, in Deep Space Nine, not Paper Moon, something Paper Moon, maybe. That's about like the heart of the trauma and him really having he's in it in that episode. And that's why it's a hard to watch episode, but like really important episode, beautiful episode. But in this case, we're not seeing La'an like face that trauma exactly after she left the Gorn, when she was saved by Una and everything. We're watching it years later. And so I think that is also a very valuable moment of the trauma to tell, and the healing process does not happen in one 45-minute episode. And it takes years and years and years. And so I think that is something I really like about it too, is we're seeing her becoming, a butterfly in Star Trek, and she goes from little chrysalis La'an, and she's starting to like figure out how to fly,
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that you referenced the Nog storyline and that Paper Moon episode, which is such a powerful episode. But we see them deal with it and then, okay, I'm healed, off we go. And I do think with La'an, and we even see this, I think, at Discovery and even Lower Decks, that they're not afraid to identify, yes, there's trauma, or there are issues with this character, and it doesn't just go away. That is something that is still essentially a part of them and helping to shape them, mostly, as they heal and become a better individual, a version of themselves. But it also cannot be great for them too. And I think we see that in her, especially, that she has had her moments where she's kind of, where it's affected her job. It happened in the season 3 opener. Like, she wasn't able to lead the protection of the people she was with as they were captured by the Gorn. She needed Ortegas to step in, or other people to step in and help get her through that moment. And I think that's something the storytelling has done better, is that we're saying trauma doesn't go away always. It's not a, oh, we checked that box because we talked about it and people know about it, so we're okay. No, and I think it's also about maybe the trauma of the heritage a little bit too, that she accepts it and acknowledges it, but it's still something she has to carry and deal with on a regular basis. So maybe the storytelling's better in that regard. I don't know.
I think because Trek, like, this is modern Trek, we're making it in the 2020s eras, and there's more research about mental health. And so because Star Trek is always progressive and always trying to push the envelope in any way, in ways that they want to, I think that this is also a more realistic way of storytelling. Like, people don't get over trauma so quickly. And so I think, like you talked about, Lower Decks, Picard, like,
oh my gosh,
like,
Picard,
all the new Trek I can think of, with the exception of maybe Prodigy, has like really explored characters that have had traumas, and they're still trying to like go through their lives and like keep living with it and everything. So
I would say it doesn't only extend to new Trek though, because it like depends on what you think of Enterprise. I still kind of think of it as newish old. It's like in the middle. Where Trip has this like continuous trauma of his sister's death, and T'Pol has her continuous like addiction trauma that they both are handling together and separate, and how it kind of ruins their relationship but also strengthens it at some point, and they come apart and together, and they're feeling a lot better one episode, and then they have a complete backslide the next, kind of thing. And then, there's like a random episode between where nothing happens, and then they're, then they address it again. And so I do feel like Enterprise does, and this was also like early 2000s, so it was also addressing the trauma of 9/11 and how that was continuously affecting family members and people who had family who passed away during that time, that kind of thing. So I know that was also like a huge reason that they talked so much about trauma in Enterprise. But also think about Seven of Nine, even before Picard, her trauma was definitely addressed over and over again. And she was having times where she was very collected, no pun intended, and very just like, becoming
that was awesome. I love it.
No. She hates my puns. She hates them, which makes it so much better.
Well, no, that was like, oh, poor Seven. She's triggered by your use of collected.
But she would agree with me.
She would. I think she would.
She'd be like, no pun intended, Doctor. But I think like Seven is one that addresses trauma really well throughout the series, because she's allowed to have these backslides in these episodes. And I'm thinking about the one, I'm not going to remember its name, but where her like Unimatrix Zero, like, or her Unimatrix comes back and is like, you tied us all together irrevocably. And we're gonna sell your like pieces of you to the black market, like all this crazy stuff where she's like, they're being continuously traumatized by Seven's actions, and then they're traumatizing her by like trying to get back at her, and even I'm gonna go so far to say is TOS, of course, very episodic, very much like boom, trauma healed, next episode we'll talk about it. However, I do think in the episode Conscience of the King, we do get to see what long-term trauma from Tarsus 4 does to each character individually, and how like Tom Layton is gonna be completely paranoid, and he is paranoid for like the rest of his life, and like he literally is like, that's Kodos, I know it, and Kirk's like, and then when Tom dies, he's like, hang on. And so Kirk's way to address his long-term trauma is like, I remember the speech that you made from scratch, read it, bitch. He's gotta like
right.
And then Riley is there on the ship, a little guy who's like normally our like happy-go-lucky guy who's like singing and like, but in this episode he's ready to murder Kodos for what happened when he was a kid. And so it makes me think a lot about how even TOS addresses what long-term trauma can do to various people and how it can affect the way that they move around the world, or affect how when they're faced with something that is like a literally triggering in that moment, how they'll like react to it. So I don't know, I think that Trek has always been fairly good at addressing it, besides the whole like, we're never going to talk about it in another episode, that's of course what's so unique about Seven's storyline, and a lot of like Enterprise. But I do still think that La'an's is some of the best addressed. I think that there's some of that like older 90s Trek where it's just like, but she'll be fine, or it's sort of just like, they don't really ever have T'Pol really get to have like good closure around her addiction, at all, and I really wish that there could have been something like canceled. More deeply.
It was
canceled. That's true. I think that they probably could have at the time, if they only had the time.
Well, it's like comparing the way they dealt with T'Pol versus like Rafi and Picard, where they both, what I mean, like they have similar,
great point.
Addiction issues, but I think Rafi's, they kind of gave her that arc of like the struggle of it and the healing of it and kind of finding yourself through it, and
the backslides and the
and it just, I thought it was well handled, and I think it appealed to a lot of people because of that. There's a lot of identifying, and I do think obviously with T'Pol, like you said, we didn't get the resolution out of that that we might have gotten if it had continued, but I do think that that's something different that's happening now in these newer series, is that they kind of give us a more realistic perspective of it, and that there are ebbs and flows of dealing with that trauma.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I think that's makes her unique.
Agreed.
As a character. The other part, I think that's a big part of of who she is the chosen family aspect, which, this is a theme throughout Trek from the very beginnings, and I think it's part of the things that endear us so deeply to it. But do you feel like she's fully found that found family aboard the Enterprise, or is she still searching?
I think she's still searching. I think she's found definitely home. I am thinking about Pike always making family dinners and everything.
Right.
Like they do really have a good bond on the Enterprise, but I think she still has a distance. She's still the security officer above everything. And so, but I think she's still very happy, still enjoying it. Yeah. But I think she's still looking too.
Yeah, I agree, Ashlyn. I think that it seems like there's something still holding her back a little bit, and that's fine, pop off, girl, whatever you need. Like, take your own time. There's no timeline on healing. But I do think that if she is able to allow herself to talk more openly about things that bother her, or fight with Menmenga more on your little wrestling, however she needs to express it, I think I would like to see more of that as we continue on, especially if, like we're talking about, if we get a Lortegas, if we get Lon and Ortegas doing something together where they both unpack their Gorn trauma, that would be sick. I'd be so good for that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think it really goes back to her and trust.
Yeah.
I think she trusts Mbenga, or she wouldn't spar with him. I think she trusts Una because Una was, saved her and has, become that, solid, there's something about having that person that's grounded in your world. And I think that is Una for La'an. And I think there is a trust issue. And I think she's learned to trust a lot of the people on the Enterprise crew. And I think that has really helped shape her relationships. So this next one I have, just for fun, just to speculate a bit, but I also think it's the next theme for you guys on your podcast, because it has to do with if La'an had to team up with a non-Strange New World security chief. I mean, I'm thinking Worf, Tuvok, Reed, even Odo is in a way right? He's a rogue security chief, but he is in a way still, one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But which pairing would make the best or maybe most chaotic duo?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm inclined. I really feel like Worf and La'an, they are very similar, but I don't know if that means that they would be good together or not. I think Tuvok and La'an would actually work really well together, because Tuvok would just they would have very frank conversations. I think they would be able to work very, very well together. It'd be a tight security team. I think La'an would want to even be Tuvok's boss, maybe, if the hierarchy happened. But I don't know. I think weirdly they would actually work quite well together.
And they're stoic enough that he wouldn't be annoyed by her over emotionality or anything.
No,
he'd just be nice.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it with Worf, it would be interesting, because I think Worf on Next Generation, they had a lot of similarities. But then I think of pacifist Worf from Picard, and
true.
I think Lon would be like, "Sir,
come on, dude,
come on."
Yeah, that's so
it's
true.
Time to go. Get your
when Riker says that line on the transporter, "We're all going to die." Lon is like, "No, we are not dying today, people.
Yes.
This is not."
Today's not a good day to die.
Yeah. Right? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm good. The anti-Klingon.
Yes.
Right, I like that.
Yeah. She'd be like, "What happened to you?"
Right.
I'm going chaotic, and I would absolutely love to see Reed and La'an just battle it out. So they would both hate that Mako officer so much, which is iconic. I think that they would also just fanboy and girl, or just be fanatics about weapons, and they would talk all day long and probably get distracted. But I also think in all seriousness, they are both really good strategists, and they're both good at thinking on their feet. If there's something crazy going down, Reed's normally gonna grab an explosive, which isn't always the answer. Sometimes, Archer's Malcolm, put that away,
Right.
But I do think that there is something sort of chaotic good about the two of them, that they can think on their feet, and they're going to be like very solution oriented. And so I would low-key love to see this.
I also think they would have a lot of like British quips. They'd be like, you know, like,
true.
well,
Right.
back home, they say, you know, like, because, you know, sometimes Star
That's a
Trek
good
characters,
point,
like,
yeah.
they really pull back to their heritage. Like, Chekhov's always like, oh,
And O'Brien,
you know,
yeah.
like the
Oh,
whiskey,
O'Brien, yeah.
vodka was invented by a little
Russia.
lady in Russia. Yeah. So I think it would get extra British in this.
Yes,
in this ship,
you're so
too.
right. I forgot they're both British. That's even
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there would be chaos too. You'll have to remind me the name of the security chief on lower decks. He always wants to eject the warp.
Shax. Yes.
Eject the warp core.
Eject the warp core, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I mean,
This is not the time.
this is not the time for that. Like,
It would be
I
a
think
fierce battle, though. They if they
Right?
were like against the enemies in a fight, like they would be great together.
Formidable. Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
so. See, there's some fun to play. See, I think it's a whole series on security chiefs.
Yes.
Like,
you know,
there's-
I've thought
'cause-
about that one. For
Oh,
a
that's
while.
yeah.
Right?
We've thought about that
I
for
think
sure. It's
that could
coming
be
at some
fun.
point.
Yeah,
Oh,
good, good.
Yeah.
Let me know. I'm all in on that.
Okay,
so
yeah,
that's
great.
good.
We definitely want to do a series like work through all of the
doctor.
roles. Yeah.
Yes,
We've done
yeah.
engineers already, so
And we've
like
done first officers as well.
that's right. I
Oh,
forgot we already
good,
did that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's it's a fun way like to connect all these people because you're like, oh, there's a lot of similarities there across some of
Yeah.
these folks. And
The Murph security episode, you know, like
Come
can't wait.
on.
I mean, okay, Murph and La'an, honestly, good team.
Good team.
that is
She'd be
chaotic.
like, be
good,
my tether.
right?
Let's go. I'm gonna jump out of the ship. Be my ship tether.
La'an
Murph's like,
guns
all in,
blazing,
yes.
weapon, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, swinging her around.
And her and Tasha, I would absolutely adore to see because like no nonsense at all. Like
At all.
yeah,
Like-
it'd be great.
They're not taking anything from anyone at
No.
any given time. That would
No.
be for sure. That's see, that's fun. I like that. That's a
That
lot
is
of
really
good
good.
stuff. Well, as always, we can't talk about the character without talking about the actor. And I think that
Yes.
you know, we've given Christina Chong some props early on, but she's definitely her performance and her preparation for this role, I think, are show in every episode. But what do you think that Christina Chong brings to the role that makes La'an unique?
There's this really hilarious meme of like a bright pink house next to a completely dark like goth house, and it's sort of like I feel like the bright pink is Chrissy Chong and La'an is like the dark goth house, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of how like their personalities, her personality in real life versus her character's personality actually
Yeah.
bring something really unique to the role, especially in the Elysian Kingdom, because she kind of got to be Chrissy Chong a little bit. She brought her
Right.
dog in.
Her dog, I was just
To wear this
gonna say,
elegant
yeah.
Amazing
dress.
dress.
She
Yeah.
got to be like, whoo, you know, just not to say that Chrissy Chong is like a damsel in real life, but I just think that it's really cool that you have such skill that you're able to like kind of dig this darker depth in yourself that you don't really present. At least we don't know her in real life, but like I assume that that she has to sort of like dig a little deeper into like the darkness in her own self. Maybe she thinks about her own like issues she struggled with to bring that to La'an. But I do really think that that's what makes her unique as well, is that it's not like a carbon copy of just like, oh yeah, well, she is this character in real life. You know, she has to work a little bit harder, and it always pays off, that hard work, for sure.
You know, that's funny that you say that. We got to interview Tim Russ earlier this year, and speaking with him, and he even said this on the interview, but he's like, well, my friends all tell me that I never acted when I played Tuvok because I am Tuvok. And the more we talked to him, we're like, oh, he is Tuvok. I mean, like he's very logical, very, you know, straightforward. But I mean, like, it's interesting that, you know, he's like, yes, everybody in my life is saying that I'm Tuvok, that it wasn't really a job because I was just being myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, you are. So this is so cool. But I do like that. Like that meme is very much so how I perceive Christina Chong and La'an. Like they're just, there's that very stark difference between the two, but I appreciate wholeheartedly what she brings to that role.
Yes.
Oh yeah, such strength, such
Right?
just, like such power. It's very it's Mulgrew. Like I see a lot
Oh,
of
right.
similarities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, and I think there's a lot of Janeway coded in La'an's character, at least.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
right.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Totally.
I mean, not that all the female characters across Trek are the same, they are not, but
Not
I
at
do
all.
think these two have a lot of in common, and I think
Mhm.
that says a lot about the importance of La'an as a character.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. I think fan reception has been really strong, compared to maybe some other Trek security officers. We didn't really get to spend a lot of time with them in some of the earlier series, but I do think that maybe the writers could have more plans for her moving forward. And do you think maybe they would expand on that Khan connection even more? Or do we just, I do too.
I really hope so. Yeah.
I also think Singh, who invented Data, he always shows up in the most random places, and I think there is some connection to Khan. Like I through Enterprise, like he made like a bunch of the Khan replicas, like the last name. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Brent Spiner just
replaying Picard. There was some. Do you remember when he had the files?
Yes.
Right.
On Khan. Yeah. So I would not be surprised. Not only if we have a Khan throwback, if we have a Brent Spiner appearing on
another suit.
World. They have. I mean, they're billed for 5 seasons. We still have a season and a half left that we haven't seen. I just wouldn't be surprised, and I would not be mad at all if we continue to explore La'an, because like you're saying about the fan reception, I feel like she's one character that universally is like loved. I don't hear bad things about La'an. I don't hear many bad things about any characters. I mean, Spock is divisive because he's Spock, and everyone has different opinions on how Spock should be written. But La'an is just such a solid character, and no matter what she's doing, I'm here and I'm rooting for her.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Yeah, it really is, and I do think Brent Spiner's going to be taking a run at being in more episodes than Frakes
he's going after Michael Dorn. Yeah,
Michael Dorn's trying to lose his award on that, but I mean, he may always win most episodes, but
sure,
that series checklist, I think he and Brent are getting pretty close. I do think that she is, as a character, very well liked, and I think Christina Chong does a great job championing her and the series, as a whole. They all do. They're a great cast for promoting that and talking about it, sharing behind the scenes stuff. So I think that helps in this world of 24-hour access to everything. They kind of have found their path to embrace that and share with the fandom. Do you think, is there another fun question out there, but what captain would she pair best with if she weren't working with Pike? I mean, Kirk, Janeway, Sisko. I mean, we've got Burnham. I mean, there's some Philippa. I mean, Giorgio, she's out
Lorca?
there too.
Yeah.
Lorca. Oh my gosh. She would not have. Lorca would not have lasted with her. She would have figured him out.
She would have mutinied. She would have mutinied. She'd been like, I figured out he's from the Mirror Universe.
Toss him out the airlock.
Her and Saru would be like, you see what I see, right?
Yes.
Like, not good. Yeah.
I think she and Saru would have been good friends.
Oh
my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
Old
they would have
had tea together. Yeah.
Went and watered all the plants.
They were sparring. Maybe post Vahara, Saru would be sparring with her in the gym. Yeah.
Okay.
Training. That could be fun.
You know what I would love to see is Defiant Captain Worf, like with La'an on the Defiant.
Stop.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Like unstoppable. She would be just like, because we know she's a soldier. She's already good in like these pseudo war times. So if she were like in the Dominion War, her kill count would be insane. And her strategy alone, and like we said, with even her interacting with Worf as a security officer, there might be a little bit of a hierarchy issue. But I think here, if Worf's already captain and he trusts her, because he doesn't really trust Odo at the beginning to be a good security chief, because he's got his own way of thinking about it. But I think on the Defiant, he's he knows to trust her enough to do her job while he can just captain and be a badass. So I would love to see that.
I was thinking that just Cisco in general would actually be. I mean, La'an would work well with any captain. I'll say.
Yeah.
I think even Archer, like she'd be great with everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe she might have some questions with Captain Freeman, but she would still get along with her.
And with Kirk, maybe.
And with Kirk,
why are you going down?
She'd
again?
be like, I had a weird experience with an alternate version of you.
Yeah.
So,
but I think Cisco also. I mean, you just think about like the type of officers he has around him. Kira and La'an are kind of two sides of the same coin. We have like awesome, amazing, powerful Jadzia on Deep Space Nine. Like it's a great crew, and I think La'an would fit in so well with that. Her and Odo, I think, would actually, like, even if she was a Starfleet liaison and like her and Odo had to work together, I think they would still do great. Like, I just think she would fit in very naturally on Deep Space Nine for whatever reason.
And she probably wouldn't racially profile the Ferengis either, which could be a nice change of pace.
That is true. She might say, Odo, you can't turn into a chair and surveillance people without without a warrant. Like she might
like throw down the book at him a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
But she really would, she would have no love for the Cardassians.
No.
Not at all.
That's damn true. No.
She would fight with Garrick a lot, I think.
I think so too. I think he'd find a way to warm up to her because that's his strength. But I do think she would. She's not letting Dukat on that station.
I was gonna say she's greeting him with a phaser at the airlock, like.
Turn around, sir.
Turn around. Yeah.
We're doing this meeting in your ship. Like, you're not coming aboard.
Yeah. Captain Sisko's on his way. Yeah.
Right. We're done with you. We're absolutely done with you. Yeah. I think,
love that.
Yeah. There's a whole other series there if you involve La'an in Deep Space Nine. Yeah. I do. Yeah. And I do think, like, I was thinking about this too. Like, you talked about how she's so similar to Tuvok. I don't think she would have changed much that happened on Voyager because, they were, she would have been an asset just as much as Tuvok was in that, he kept Janeway in check and questioned her when appropriately. And I think La'an would have done that. She does that with Pike even,
totally.
So
she would have done the black market deals that Tuvok does as well, she's good at going undercover and doing some of that crazy stuff
where he traded the Federation library to try and get that
factors,
technology.
Exactly. I was just thinking that too.
Or Random Thoughts when she has to like give her like traumatic, scary thoughts to that guy in order to gain his trust. She would kill that. She'd be like, I got so many dark thoughts up here, like take them. Like
go for it.
She's got way more than B'Elanna does. So that she would have definitely.
She's not just gonna punch that guy like
that was poor B'Elanna always just could frown at people and that was the end of her aggression.
Was offensive.
That became B'Elanna's got but fun. That's fun to think about. I do think DS9 though, that'd be
awesome.
Her and Quark would be like drinking together.
Oh my god!
Like,
sharing
they're
tea.
Closing down the bar. Yeah, yeah.
Like he and Jadzia had that relationship, right?
Totally.
And I
think similar too.
Very similar. Yeah. That would have been fun. There's all sorts of fiction to be written about those two.
Totally.
So right?
I love
open up an AO3.
Plugging Trek characters into other series is like Rhianna's favorite topic of conversation.
It's so
it's fun. Just fun. Change things up a bit sometimes, right?
Totally.
Well, I think we, talked about how La'an she's significant as a Strange New Worlds character. And I think we could say that maybe about all of the characters that are the main cast there on the series, but she's definitely woven into all of their storylines, even if we'd like to see her woven into some of them more, but there's still time. So we hold out hope. There's a balance with her personal demons over her duty as a professional member of Starfleet and her oaths there. But I think there's a lot left to cover with her. And we've talked about that too, what we'd like to see coming up in what's left of season 3. And we've got about a season and a half of the series to come. And then, we hope we get some resolutions, but where do you hope to see her go next as a character? If you could say, are we going to follow the Gorn storyline? Are we going to talk more about Khan? Are we going to see her in a true relationship? There's a lot of options that have been laid out there for her.
Yeah.
and there's a lot of this is a prequel to TOS, and we know what crew was on the Enterprise under Kirk. And
that makes me scared. It makes me scared she wears a red shirt. I'm just saying it now. I've been worried since the beginning about Ortegas and La'an because they're not confirmed in TOS. Obviously, we never hear about them in TOS, and so they don't have that safety plot armor like the rest of them do. Even though poor Sam Kirk, we know what happens to him. At least we know he survives into TOS, and so like he's secure even when he's touching a glowing egg. Like he's gonna be fine. But like if Ortegas or La'an get taken out, like it would canonically still work, and so that scares me to death. Especially like thinking about how many risks La'an takes for the crew, and how like it could be this very like valiant end of the series. La'an sacrifices herself Hemmer style. Like I'm very scared. Is what I'm gonna lay out is like I really hope they don't kill her off, but I could imagine it being something very like heroic and sort of once she's completed her arc and is like at peace, and then they're like bye. I'm like, bye, oh God, please don't do this. Don't do this to my heart. I can't take it.
No, I refuse to believe that. I think her path, like when we're in the TOS era and they're wrapping up the show, I think she's captain. I think she's on her way to a leadership role.
Interesting.
I like this.
Because I think like as security, she's like already, and she's training cadets, like she has, ensigns that are coming around in rotation and things like that. Like, I think she's getting more and more of a leadership role. She's telling people how to get through these like crazy situations on the fly. I see her as wanting to go the distance. And if she wants to do that in a relationship, great. I don't think it's going to be with Spock like they're trying to make us see in season 3. I really am confused, but I'm like, whatever. I'm letting them cook. I'm like, okay, Spock can just date everybody.
You're a better person than me, Ashley. I'm like hissing at the screen every time they're
so literally, my husband, whenever Spock is with anyone, my husband gets so angry. He's like, why are they doing this to Spock?
What are they doing?
And to Cream, like it's
I'm just like, we'll see. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think she's fine. I could see. Yeah, I think a leadership journey is what I see for her in the future seasons.
I like that a lot because like you, Rhianna, I worry about our red shirts because we don't have a good track record with the red shirts from into the TOS era. But that has crossed my mind, I guess, is that maybe she or Ortegas wind up on another ship, and like things like that happen. But that would be great to see them. La'an as captain, I can totally see it. Like, especially now that we've seen her kind of embrace this more tender and open side of her personality, and I think that balance is needed in our captains. We've seen it in all of them, and in moments they have their moments anyway that they let that guard down a bit, and I hope that we find that with her because she's an intriguing character, and I think it would be interesting to see that Khan heritage continues.
Yes,
to be a part of that.
That would be so cool. And something actually I thought could be a cool trajectory for her is to actually maybe like resign from Starfleet and start like a rehabilitation center for people who have gone through Gorn stuff, or maybe use the Noonien Singh name as like for something good, foundation, or some kind of like rescue alliance, or some kind of Fenris Raiders, maybe Rangers vibes. I could see, because we did get that arc of her like low-key just leaving Starfleet for a bit to take the girl back to her family after the Gorn incident, and it didn't seem that far-fetched of her wanting to like take this long leave of absence to kind of go do stuff under the wire or under the like rules, like she can kind of, when she's not as held down by Starfleet rules, which don't get me wrong, she loves rules, like she's mostly going to follow the rules, but oftentimes it doesn't work for what the moment needs, and she very much is like calling to whatever moment needs her. And so I could see her like moving on from Starfleet once she's kind of like resolved a lot of her own stuff, found her family, had her time, had her tour in the fleet. Maybe she goes and does something really cool with her life that doesn't involve Starfleet at all, and that would be also wonderful. I'd be like, go girl.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we saw that with Hugh in the artifact there in Picard.
Yes.
I mean, I know things didn't work out great for Hugh. I'm not over that.
That didn't happen.
I do too.
I'm full of denial still.
Fully
after
denial.
all these years. Yeah.
No one really dies.
I'm like denial.
Yeah,
no,
total
fine.
denial.
They're fine. Yeah.
They're fine. Everyone's good. No one ever dies in sci-fi, anyways.
No,
so that's
fine. Yeah.
They'll be back.
But I do think that kind of idea could and maybe even should happen around the Gorn, because obviously the Gorn aren't going away. We know that Starfleet and the Gorn don't mix very well, so we'll see where that storyline goes. But I don't think her story is over by any means.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
Well, this has been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly, as always. But so a huge thanks to Rhianna and Ashlyn from the Duras Sisters Podcast.
Yeah,
Make sure you check out their podcast and follow them on all the socials, because it's fun and it's wonderful and it makes you think, and that's important. That wraps our discussion on Khan Noonien Singh, a character who shows us that survival isn't just about strength. It's about finding connection, purpose, and hope in the face of impossible odds. From carrying the burden of a legendary name to carving out her own identity on the Enterprise, Khan's story is one of the most powerful journeys in Strange New Worlds. Thank you all for joining us on this installment of the Women of Strange New Worlds. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next episode, where we'll continue celebrating the women who boldly go. Share this episode with your fellow Trek fans, leave us a review, and join the conversation online. We love hearing your insights and all of your theories, whether they're chaotic or not. Until next time, go boldly and live long and prosper.
Live long
Thank
and
you so
prosper.
much.
Thank you.